Melbourne preview time. We've got the Australian Guineas on at Flemington on Saturday. We've got our Melbourne Pro Aaron and our Everywhere Pro Gord, who'll also be looking at the opening two at Eagle Farm on Saturday after we dispense with the Quaddie legs at Flemington. First things first, Aaron, you're looking at a mild day, not much wind, and a 2 metre rail at Flemington. So how do we approach that?
Very fair track. It's probably as fair as you'll get it. The southerly looks to potentially pick up late in the day, particularly the last two races, but just something to monitor. But I'm just going in ultra track fair.
All right, that's the state of play. Gord, how does this Flemington back end look to you?
I love it when I'm betting into a track in which the win isn't going to be a dramatic factor. The whole day looks really good. Geez, Melbourne's putting on some good cards. I mean, Aaron's been mentioning a couple of things that sound like I'm going down to the dark ages there in another week and a half, Aaron. But
no
as far
as
betting is concerned, but look, a great card yet again. Really looking forward to it.
All right. Well, the first leg of the Quaddie is I'll say time-honoured Blamey Stakes. It's a bit of a journeyman's race. So let's see what we've got here in that race. Step Hardy, who seems like he's been up forever. He has had a couple of mini breaks, but $4.40. Marble Arch, Aaron's poster girl, is a firmer at $6.50. Place du Carousel is first up here, $7. Zardozi second up, $7.50. Nugget is resuming with the blinkers off after carrying the blinkers at Moonee Valley. Last preparation, $9. And Just Folk is a firmer at $9. Plenty of Ammo, who made her way through the grades last preparation, is the other one in the betting at $9. Attrition heads the others at $13. And there's not much speed. Just Folk from 1, and then you make it up. So how have you made it up, Aaron?
I think you're right. Just Folk leads by default. Thought Plenty of Ammo might go forward. Don't think it's going to put any pressure on, but I think it might be our OSL horse, Place to Carousel, kick up. I'd say behind lead. Future History can go forward first up from gate 4, and I think Marble Arch will probably be 1 out, 2 back. It's just a fit up and running horse. I thought Stepati and Poison Chalice might have a bit of an issue slotting in and finding a spot. Just those middle gates have enough speed to sort of kick up. There's not much speed. Might have to make a decision on Stepati. I've sort of been waiting for them to roll forward. Potentially Saturday's the day.
Leader's gate.
Yeah, and it's done it in the past. Like back when I was a 2-year-old, had no issues with it. I think it's somewhat of a vulnerable favourite though, just at the price, $3.70. It's just trimmed in the last half an hour. I think that's certainly short enough. Just got a little query about it at the end of 16, although this is not a fast tempo, so maybe it doesn't matter as much. But the run last start, third to Mr. Brightside and Another Wheel looks really good, but it was gaps back to the field, and the horses that it was sort of in and around and behind it weren't fantastic. Last start, you had, the horse that sat there won. What was that? Freedom Rally, Pinstripe. They were all okay, but didn't really ultra frank the ones that got gaps. And Samana, I thought was pretty.
Well, you could argue that Mr. Brightside, barely.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, Mr. Brightside did regress. It was running into the wind OSL, so that's 1 point in its favour. But yeah, it was. It got a little bit dicey then, there, didn't it, Mr. Brightside? I think Place Carousel's not a horse that you really want to take on. It's got some gear changes. It's trialled up well, particularly when you go back to the first preparation when it was in Australia. That first up run behind Via Sustain is obviously good enough. It's got no weight. It's not a horse I want to oppose, but I've got it sort of around the market. It's not a race I love. I've got Marble Arch on top just. It's just the fit up and running horse. It's got no weight. The last start, it was a big 8-4 quicken up, and it was in sort of restricted room, and it wanted to go quicker during that portion of the race, and then had to ease to the outside lanes. Got pretty close to Duke de Sessa on the line. Thought it was really strong. Loves firm ground, winner track and trip, just ultra consistent. Like when you've got sort of ifs and maybes about a couple of these resuming. This is just fitting up and running.
It's
So
the
I
little
think it's
doer, isn't she?
yeah, she's just a trier and just in super form. I thought the two at odds that are interesting. I think attrition will be far better suited here second up. Thought the work it did late first up was actually pretty good. It's a little bit hidden there on the soft track. Be much better suited here. Looks to get a nice run. Might need a little bit of luck, but looks to chuck an okay horse into the race with some pretty short SPs in proper races in a couple of previous preps. I think it's actually a Group 1 winner over Antino at this distance as well. So I think
Three-year-old
it's,
group winner.
yeah, it was a little while ago, but
They'll
it's
win
still
this. They'll win the Guineas a couple of years ago.
potentially, it might have actually, yeah. Was that? No, I can't remember. And
He ran
future
second in the
history,
Guineas.
yeah, that'll be its track and trips. Future,
Legato.
yeah, that's right, Kiwi was. In future history, I think we'll do something here fresh, suited to the firm ground. But geez, I was super impressed with its first two runs in its first preparation in Australia, how well it sprinted there fresh. So I don't have an issue with it being first up at 16 because it was first up at 17 in its previous prep, and it was just an enormous run. It sort of screamed to keep following me through that preparation. So I think it will do something fresh as well, future history.
Yeah, I stand corrected there. Of course, attrition win was in the Toorak, which of course is
Turak,
all
yeah, that's
age.
right. Yeah.
Gord, how do you line these up?
It's very difficult to do because you can't get rid of any of them. Notice Aaron's given some positive comments about multiple runners in the race, and it sort of makes it hard to bet into because, I want to try and be against, one of the, like Stapati, for example, taking up the largest percentage. And it's just such a consistent performer against decent horses. But I don't want to back a horse that hasn't won for ages at this price range when it's been travelling around the world and is really late preparation. I just can't step into a short price. Good luck to those that can on this occasion because I think it has found the right race, but it won't be a bet for me. Marble Arch, yeah, it's the horse, just running really well at the moment, but I think some of the others have more class than it does, so I couldn't find a way to back it. Place to Carousel, I watched that last trial, Aaron, and I was really impressed. But then I looked at its other jump outs and trials, and it seems to trial well all the time. So I couldn't say that there was a change in pattern. And I really wanted a change in pattern because if this thing got back to some of its earlier form, like that first run in Australia, second to V16, if he gets back to that, then it just wins this race. But ever since then, it's showing the signs of a mare that's not interested in racing anymore.
It had respiratory issues first up last prep, and that was a $3.80 SP and a Group 1 Underwood. Oh,
it's amazing, but just because they put the tongue tie on and do a bit of stuff doesn't mean you fix the problem. And I'm not sure whether there's a... But you see, if that trial had been significantly better than previous jump outs and trials, I'd say, well, maybe the tongue ties worked or the surgery worked or whatever they've done is work. But I didn't get that evidence. And it's a really scary proposition. So it's a horse of interest. Number one, attrition. I agree with you. It'll improve dramatically second up and does have some stuff in its career to run really well. And then I just thought, if I'm going to have a bet, and I'm a sicko, so I've got to at least have a jar bet. A jar bet, guys, is like, grab a couple of notes out of your jar and whatever. And it's going to be number 4, Zardozi. I'm obsessed with Sydney form, and you're talking fangirl Lindemann versus Stina there. Now, I know it came last, but that's a super strong race, and I just wanted to see a pattern from first to second up, see some track stuff, and entertain it. And I just looking at these second up runs, 3 of them are definitely good enough to win the race. I mean, I know one of them was his first ever career start at Hawkesbury, but it did win dominantly on a wet track, first ever career start. So that's good enough. But the one you really want to look at is the Rosehill run, where it was in the Group 2 far lap, and it was a dominant winner against Macarena, who obviously is dead to me now, but that's a pretty good win, and I'm getting $7.60 to find out with good old Boombet putting those funny odds out. It's only ever flopped first up it actually had heat stress. So maybe the horse
Well,
just improves dramatically second up.
I thought that was a flop good. I compared it to its first up run last campaign. It was much stronger through the line. Had a really nice run there first up. I was pretty disappointed for a slowly run race.
Oh, the Buckaroo race.
No, this Zardozi first up.
First up versus first up in the Warwick Mink
Yeah,
Stakes
yeah,
last
yeah,
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm just giving it a tick from a pattern of second up runs.
yeah.
Yeah, look, there's negatives about it too, for sure. Like I'm saying, there's no horse that jumps off the page at me.
Yeah, well, there are some horses that are well placed, particularly Place A to Carousel, but um, this old horse, Just Folk, Aaron, I don't know what Gavin Bedgood does to them, but he's only at it for 12 runs, and
Yeah.
he's got 3 wins out of it. He's got it to win on the dry. I presume it'll blow because it's coming off a wet to a dry, but Joshua Julius, who's he? He's been left far behind. Um,
Yeah, I
that
think it had its chance last start on the soft. Got what it wanted with the rain coming on the day.
All right. Well, I think the betting will display that. Let's get on to the feature, which is the Australian Guineas, and we've got a little bit of Sydney interest with the seventh up point and shoot hard in the market here. The market is Angel Capital, $4, point and shoot Affirmer at $5.50. Seapool's the winner of I suppose you'd say the Flemington lead up is $6, and out to Feroce at 13. It hits Savaglee and Gold Rush Guru just behind it at $14. The map is, well, you've got a capacity field and you've got bits of speed. Savaglee, Stay Focused, Feroce out in 11, and Opening Address out in 14. What are you expecting, Aaron?
Certainly not rapid. Feroce will want cover. They're instructed to ride it with cover last start, and I thought it might have rolled forward and been your OSL horse, and I think it won. Sat one out, two back, or one out, one back. So it's not a genuine tempo, which makes the race quite interesting. Angel Capital, I think this is short enough. I think it's a 1400-meter horse as well, but Evaporate was a tragedy beat there first up, and I don't think you'd be seeing 390 had it to run second. But in saying that, Evaporate is pretty bloody good form for this race, but I just think it's a risk at the price. It could certainly win, but it's certainly short enough. Point and shoot was one I was really hoping it drew a gate. This is just a horrendous barrier draw for
Couldn't
it.
have drawn worse, could it? I mean,
Just awful draw. I mean, it's got last start wasn't the only time it's been slowly away like that. And when you've got no speed from one, if it does that again, it's lights out. So that's a huge risk for me.
well, maybe it's better if he misses the start from one.
You're going to be holding your breath at 550. And the other is as much. It's been really impressive and dominant. They're benchmark 70 races.
Yeah, and what's this?
Like a new bloke's just
This is-
tower onto Melbourne
this
like
is-
nothing
this is
else. It's
fucking-
unbelievable.
This is an 80.
Okay. Well, Qatar's choice, 2 runs back, should have got within 2 lengths of it. It was in a weaker race last start. Didn't get cited as a fit horse when that was the theme of the day. You wanted to be fit and up and running. It was hard to be sort of fresh with those conditions. So I think it's a risk from the gate. And Seapaws, which I just mentioned, that Flemington, it was really good. It was dominant, but I think Silicap was the only fresh horse that won for that portion of the day when the rain really came. You wanted to be fit up and running, and it was. So I think it's a risk as well at the
So
top.
that's a highly nuanced, flattered run there. I mean,
I think so. Yeah,
okay.
for sure. I think the market's a little bit upside down. I've got it much closer together. I think Gold Rush Guru is a chance. You mentioned there's no speed. I think it's another one that will roll forward. You know, you've got a Derby winner that resumes over 11 wide without cover. That's a dead set barrier trial. That shouldn't count. I treated last start as first up when it went and sat wide early, then pushed forward to OSL. Looked at the 100 like it was just going to drop out, and then came back and got past the leader on the line. And I think I mentioned this horse the other week. When the camera shuts off, you should have seen what this did past the post. It trucked past everything in that race. It was screaming, yep, next start's go time. So I think it's right in play. And Dollar, which we mentioned last start in the CS Hayes, it was just a massive improver. It was I backed this horse in the Caulfield Guineas off its first 2 runs. That's the opinion I had of it. And it had a bit of a setback, had to go down the straight, then won at the 14. Didn't go much good in the Manfred at the short SP, but then last start was just brilliant when the tongue tie went on. I think it's a chance, and I didn't like it at all first up. But Heinlein, I think, it's got a bit of Indola about it from last start when you shorten the lead up and then you're very long off a failed run. It's the race wasn't really run to suit, and it was soft conditions first up, had to be dragged. But when you start that short, you've got talent. You're going to be better your second up. You get the blinkers first time, and this is a more suitable trip. $26 seems a bit of an overcorrection. So I've got the market a lot flatter than this anyway.
Yeah, look, you painted a picture that's got holes in the 3 picks. Scored you with one of the 3 picks, or have you?
Yeah, you have to go with Ultimate DF purely because every of the major lead ups, I just don't think they're strong at all. So yeah, I understand your Angel Capital being short, and I understand Seapole's being short, but they're not proven for me. This is incredibly weak race, and let's just back the one with Ultimate DF, who's absolutely airborne. I don't have a problem with one at all. If you get the luck, you get the luck, and if you don't, you don't. You know, you're not going to be doing any work. Just going to sit on the damn thing, and if you get the splits at the right time, I think you run over the top of them. So 7 point and shoot on top for me. The other one, for similar reasons to Aaron, that I'm going to have something on is this number 5, Heinlein. I wouldn't have even bothered taking the long odds that this horse is going to be, except for the fact that the blinkers go on. So I've just got to say, his Lion's previous preparations would just make it so competitive in this race. Now, obviously, there's no evidence with that first up run that the horse is back, but let's just hope with the blinkers going on and Zara sticking to it too, Aaron, I think is a a pretty good sign as well for a horse that's long odds like this. So a couple of little half positives there to take super long odds. About 5 Henlon seems nice. So 7 from 5.
I should say the other one I've given a tick to is Feroce, which I liked last start, was smash 9s into favourite 440, or close enough to equal favourite. If you just remove Seapoles out of the race for the reasons that I outlined, it's actually a pretty good run. And the jockey got off and said probably didn't, as much as it's run well on soft tracks, that was a bit of a shifty track, and we'd had a lot of rain on the day and said it didn't handle it. So I'd be willing to give that one another go. Yeah,
but he's sort of the break on Seapoles, isn't he? And heading you towards Angel Capital, who obviously you can see the SPs in the Caulfield Guineas. But Angel Capital away from Caulfield is interesting.
Yeah, and like in the old days, horses in the old days, even more recently as well, horses like Point and Shoot, we used to get $8-10 about.
Yeah, should be getting $8-10.
Yeah. Well, I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'll be backing at whatever price it is, but normally, coming off sort of what people say are weaker races in Sydney, you normally get massive value about horses like this.
They're coming off a non-standard form. I get it. Well, here's a bodgy, this $1 million Inglis race. It looks particularly poor renewal. We had Estriella in the race last year and Caballos, who was on song, and obviously things were floating around, but this looks fairly Kleiner. The market in this race is Reserve Bank first up at $5. Gatsby's, who had J Mac to steer last time, is $6. Daggers is $7.50. Certain Rises are firmer at $9. Scintilla off the midweeks in Sydney is $9.50. Elmore Zillow is $10. Odenson's a firmer at $11. And down the straight here, obviously, what are you saying about the straight, Aaron, in terms of?
The outside hasn't been as much as an advantage as it been in previous months, and also with the win, it's not going to be as much of a factor. If it is, it'll be coming into them from the inside gates, but it's not enough to really factor in. And there's enough speed in this race that it'll at least be average, but it certainly won't be fast run.
Yeah, so I've got sort of 7 or 8 runners that like to race on speed. No breakneck leaders.
No, not at all. And one of those is Reserve Bank. I think it should be clear favourite. They're equal price at the moment. I think the knocks on Gatsby's for me, I've never really bought into the hype. It's got 2 wins, both first up. One was a 2-year-old race at Canterbury, but it's gone around second up on the back of those as an evens pop and been very disappointing. Those 2 second up runs, I thought, it's pretty plain, and it just looks like a bit of a pack chaser to me. I thought the first up run was okay, but looks like fresh is best and a little bit of give out of the ground, I'd say. It does have the run down the straight and the Coolmore, but it finished a lip next to Stolly Bolly, and I would back Reserve Bank over Stolly Bolly every day. So I've got.
So why
Reserve
would you
Bank
resume in this race? Why wouldn't you have a prep run and
hype
then go,
opener.
well, here's my target. It's $1 million race, ready to go.
I think this is a target race for them.
Oh, look, it is $1 million
yeah.
race, so I presume he has aimed it towards it. But
And it's one of those typical restricted races where it's just garbage, like from
yeah,
double
all you have to
figures
do is go
onwards.
through the sales.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've got Reserve Bank clear on top. I've always had a huge opinion of this one. It's the first time it's going to strike a good track, which I think will really suit, especially when you watch the stride action. I think it's going to be really suited to getting to a firm track. The jump outs leading in have been really good. It's got the run down the straight as well, where it ran a lip off first settler. You could tie that in with Growing Empire at the time. It was just flying. And I really liked the first jump out. Just got to remember this now. The winner was Semengu, which was mid-prep trial, fit up and running. Winner won a Saturday race next start. Third was Jimmy Star, which won the Oakley Plate. I think sixth gapped was Akasita, which I know it's sale, which was on Monday or Tuesday, but was hundreds at the 300 with a big weight at $1.90 and won easily. So that trial has been ultra franked, and it was probably one of the best in that first trial. I think this has got serious talent. I cannot wait to see it get to a good track. I think it should be clear favourite. I think Gatsby's a little bit miffy. And Daggers is another interesting horse, but I'd rather see it second up at 1400, particularly when they've taken the blinkers off here first up. But the trials have been good, and it'll do something fresh just because I think the race really drops away pretty quickly. But I'll be looking for that one second up at 14.
Okay, Gord, this looks like a race for you to weave your magic.
Yeah, if only I'd had enough time to do the race, because my phone was ringing that often that I was running out of time, because every time it rang, I answered it and they said, Reserve Bank's immoral. Then it rang. I was trying to do the race. The phone rang again. What do you want? I'm trying to get some work done. Reserve Bank's immoral. So by the time I was sitting down doing this race, I'd had about 5 phone calls, everybody telling me that this horse is airborne, inside information stuff, cannot be beaten, is absolute elite top level.
Yeah. And
It's not. It hasn't proven that yet, but look, smoke where there's smoke, there's fire. Your 2 dominant wins were at Bendigo. I'm playing devil's advocate here. Your 2 wins were Bendigo, Ballarat. 27k race, 35k race. So really, you're just going off one run, which is the Flemington 1100 metre run, second to first settler. But then you've got
enriched.
Yes, then you've got enriched there. So look, playing devil's advocate, this horse isn't proven yet. And there was one other problem I had with it, Aaron, which was I really liked its style in its trial win, but it was what was the problem I had with it? The second horse, Pivot City or something like that. It seemed to try and bloody well, and I don't.
It always tries well, fast horse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to leading into previous preparation, which was at the August 26th trial, it trialled faster than Estrella that day under no riding. And Estrella went around favourite in the Group 1 off the back of it. Like, this horse, it's got serious talent.
Okay. So spotting all the negatives to you guys. Barrier 19 looks perfect, style, and its action size and strength means that the drier the track, the better. I think it'll love it. So I agree with Aaron on that analysis. It was actually weird. I don't really look at mounting yard or style of horse or anything like that. I focus on other things, but just looking at it was obvious to anybody that's watched a lot of races what a beast it is, So 7 Reserve Bank, and I hope all that information, all that stuff comes to fruition, or else there'll be some pretty poor people on Saturday afternoon. Mark, I thought the danger was Elmore Zillow. Always had an opinion of this horse. Really interested that Williams jumps on it and love the trial at Doomben. And like that Sunshine Coast race, that's pretty strong stuff. And this
Well,
thing
a
always,
Lady of Camelot climbed off the canvas to run, as well as she possibly could last start.
yeah. And we've got Private Harry, which is, I suggest when Private Harry resumes the racing, I'll get more phone calls about it than I will about
Yeah,
than I have about Reserve Bank. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. It's not the reserve; it's the major bank. All right, it is a fascinating race. What have we got down the straight earlier on, Aaron, to give us a guide or to?
A couple of
Obviously,
weaker
we've got the
races.
2-year-old race
Well,
one.
we've got plenty. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we always talk about the earlier races being good betting races. Gee, there's some mistakes. I don't know if you've done them yet, Gore. There's some massive mistakes in the early races.
Well,
um,
if you want access to Aaron's insight into those races, you need to be a Melbourne Pro subscriber. You get, I'll say the phone starts ringing. It's the chat room starts ringing on Wednesday afternoon. If you're in that room, that's the Melbourne MYM room. And to be in that room, you need to be a subscriber. And just click on the eye in the top right-hand corner. Moreover, you should be a Racing Rant member because then you'll get a $7 weekly discount on the Melbourne Pro subscription fee. In order to get Aaron's set for Saturday, his early set, his late set, and his final thoughts, 5 minutes out from each race, with a yard component there, become a Melbourne Pro subscriber. We have a journeyman's race, the last. So the first leg of the Quaddie is over a mile. Obviously, the second is as well. So 3 of the Quaddie legs are over the mile. And in this race, we have Arcana, equal favourite at $6 with Aramco, who's a firmer, $6, $7 Euphoric, $7.50 the ubiquitous Verdad, $8 Ziriyab comes out of that same race. And then we're at $13 bar. The speed looks to come from out wide with Sadaddy and Golden Crusader drawn wide, look to push across. Zuryab and How Good Are You have some speed in the middle with Aramco looking for a spot as well. How have you mapped them, Marin?
Yeah, virtually as you called it. I think Aramco wants to be as forward as it can get. It's the horse I've landed with. I think it should be clear favourite. They're equal favourite now. Arcana's been favourite most of the sort of last 24 hours. Arcana's not out of play, but I mentioned first up, it's far better suited. Connections would have been gutted when it got scratched at the gates 2 weeks ago because it got everything it wanted. All the rain came on the day. It's going to be pretty firm by this point and reminds me a little bit of Point to Shoot. Might be holding your breath a little bit from 4. Not ruling it out. It was a really good return, but I'd prefer it to have drawn a wider gate and we might even be approaching a 3 by this point, so I think it's probably short enough. Yeah, I've got Aramco clear on top. I thought the return was fantastic. Sitting up there on speed first up. It's going to be far better suited here. Second up where it's unbeaten.
Positive rider change?
Yeah, positive rider change. No, not a positive rider change. But I think this is a more suitable race as well, second up. And I mean, what is this? An 84 at 1600 at Flemington. You obviously had the Sydney prep there last campaign, but going back to the previous prep, it was going around evens in similar grade or this grade race and sort of winning or coming second every second run. This is just such a suitable race for it to sit OSL and be really strong late behind Smoking Princess. That's a group horse, I think, in the making. So I think that was a really good return. And I've got little chinks about Arcana. Verdad's just Verdad. Zirab probably had its chance to beat Aramco there last start when it was at peak third up and couldn't do it against Aramco, who was only first up. So I've got a lot of ticks about Aramco for one that was 650 and 240. I think it's a pretty safe 1/3 play. It's hard for me not to see this horse placing in this race. And sort of a blowout that might do something here is Claymore first up. Got a big opinion of this one. Goes well fresh. It's trialled like an absolute rocket. It can go forward. Flies at the trip. Firm track, not an issue. I've got no problems with the weight because I'd say they park in just behind the speed and it's a bloody tough horse. It'll do something fresh, Claymore.
Good. Can you find a bet here?
Well, we talk about it with some of the races in Sydney, or I suppose every track has these races where it's just numbers, isn't it? It's just about finding the one that has found the right race at the right time of its preparation. And I agree with that.
That's Hong Kong, isn't it?
It's Hong Kong. It's the way Sindos do things. They're their kind of races normally, but just for me, just ticks and crosses going through the race. Clearly, I agree with Aaron that the one that just has so many ticks in front of it is number 5, Aramco. But I think it is a Waller number. I know it's 14 starts, 5 wins, but you look at its track stuff. I mean, that's just so superior to everything here. So it loves the track. Second up, it's had 2 starts for 2 wins. Not the strongest races in the world, but who cares? It's still a positive. The lack of opposition, that's positive. Barrier 11 with D lane booking with options, that looks right too. So, look, everything looks right except for the fact that these kind of horses, they take their turns. So you can't get too confident. You've really got to bet to price, which is why you should get Aaron's sheet to see what he's priced it. But might have already given away a little bit of information there.
Yeah, I gave one.
Well, the show is here to talk about the Quaddie legs, and this is one of the races we preview. So,
of course.
Anyway, so all right, you're straight
on the
batting
day,
last.
though, Gord. You've seen what I'm doing for the masterclass, Mark. Bit of adjustments on the day.
That's right. Anyone that hasn't yet registered for the masterclass, which is in Melbourne on Sunday week, the day after the Newmarket All-Star Mile Day at Flemington. Come along.
You better hurry up.
Yes, it is. It is upon us. It's 8 days from Saturday, or 7 days. It's a week. Sunday week. It's on, and you'll be able to find it on the front page of RacingRant.com. How to get there, where it is, what to do. And Aaron will be presenting, and he's given me a preview of his presentation, which I love, and I'm sure you.
So you haven't been using the red texter, Mark? Eh?
It's
because we've printed out the red texters, Aaron.
Yeah, well, I asked him for 2 when Shane Foley was riding. I might need one less now. So.
Yeah.
Indeed. So that is a look at Flemington, which is it's the minor day of the 2 days at Flemington. Obviously, Australian Guineas Day preludes the major day, which is Newmarket All-Star Mile. Let's have a look at 2 races from Brisbane. It's Groundhog Day in Brisbane. In terms of weather and track conditions and all that sort of behaviour. We're going to look at race 1, which is class 3 over a mile, and Influential, which was Gord's Monty a couple of weeks back, and duly won, is in again at $2.50. Godzilla is $5. Fairway Choice is $6. Did that go around last week at in the Country Championship heat at Lismore? I'm a 2-star, $7.50, and then you're out to Able Seaman at $12. The map has very little speed in it. In fact, Archer's Reign from the leader's gate looks set to cross over. Able Seaman and Influential chase the speed. Gord, what have you got for us here?
Yeah, if Influential gets in that position, that'll be lovely. I think it will do. There's a couple of negatives about Influential now. It was a fantastic bet last start and was absolutely truckloaded and got the chocolates for us, which is all well and good. I was hoping, just when I glanced at these weights before I looked at the prices, that there was going to be some significant resistance with the 54.5 up to 60, but it hasn't happened. But hopefully on day, there's a little bit of softness due to that weight increase. There's only 1.5 chances in this race, guys, and that is the Influential race, because the rest is rubbish. So I love the fact that they're up in weight. Well, I was loving it before I looked at the prices, shall we say, but I think that'll be factored in. So whatever price it is, it'll be over its true odds of actually winning, because some of the price assessors will factor that in too much. This is a nice, big, strong horse. The top weight isn't a problem at all. Has carried biggish weights over 1,600 metres in Sydney, so it's proven to be able to carry weight. Now I'm just going to. I love this horse because of the way it travelled. It was on the inside there. It just kept up so easily, so balanced that it could have gone a hell of a lot faster and still had the same finish. I've got an opinion that this horse is just superior to these, and I don't have a problem with the weight at all due to the reasons I mentioned. So it's going to be a bet for me. And the danger actually is this I'm a True Star who comes out of the same race. I'm just really interested with the apprentice getting off for Dolan jumping on. And if you do notice, that sort of last 25 metres, I'm a True Star was sort of coming at influential again. Look, the way I'd play this would be, this is just ratio betting, guys. I'd had 5 units on number 1 and 1 unit on number 2.
Okay, that is a very brief look at race 1, obviously, but it's fairly well exposed, so we don't need to do a lot of talking about it. Race 2 is a Class 2 over the short course, 1,000 metres, and Ouroboros is $2.30. Lavachi, $9. $3.70 Lady Lucifer is in attendance. Lavachi, $9. $10 Rush Hour is a firmer up from Sydney. And the map says that it's a small field for a 1,000-metre race in Brisbane, but Lavachi and Ouroboros contest the lead, and Rush Hour is set to be cast wide outside Lot of Booty, Jamaican Money, and the Lupercal probably in the box seat. So, Gord, what do we make of this favourite?
If it's, I was about to say, if it's got 4 legs, it shits in, and I've got to change that. If it's got 3 legs, it'll shit in. If we get anywhere near back to what it's done in its career, it's a length of the straight better than anything here. I mean, the second favourite, have a look at that rubbish. I mean, that means nothing. Everything it's done in its career at Sunshine Coast, that just means nothing. I suppose. I mean, you have something like that short, just on maybe the chance that how do you say it? Ouroboros. Now we're looking for evidence that the horse is back with us. This is number 7, of course. Now, it's had issues. I mean, I think everybody knows that. When you come in, you go out, all these gear changes, etc., and extra little pieces of information. Just really interested in the fact that it trolled like a bit of a bastard before these changes were made, and now it's come back, and they really did push it out in that trial.
Which trial are you talking about, Gord?
The last trial at Deegan.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it won by 5 lengths. Look, don't get me wrong, they were pushing this thing out, so it should have won by 5 lengths. But they were doing that to make sure that, have we got this horse right? Because sometimes if they give him soft trials with the issues this horse has had, then you don't really know whether they're back or not. So I love the fact that they actually normally I don't like horses ridden this much in trials, guys, but on this occasion, I really do like it. I like the fact that it trialled against some decent horses in Great Barrier Reef and Too Hard to Refuse, so I've got trial franking form there. If it's with us, it absolutely shits in. It's map positive, lengths on the opposition. All it's got to tick is say, I've got 3 legs. What a lovely betting opportunity.
It's -2 COD, so obviously the issues they've had with it may have been fixed by the gelding.
Well, it's normally the most effective gear change. Although we've had some people email into the show arguing that because they resume after gelding in lower grade races, the figures are not as precise as if you interrogate the data more. But I did disagree with that person's opinion. So, yeah, ultimate gear change for you. By the way, you can get Aaron to talk about this race. He's done this race, Mark, so he can finally do something in Brisbane, lazy bugger.
Yes, well, it's it's interesting. This horse is actually resuming off the Inglis race 12 months ago, so that was its last race.
I have done this race because someone mentioned that the horse was up there, and I thought, wow, what's it doing there? If it's got 2 legs, Gord, he'll have to zoom out, the cameraman, because he'll have to be able to get the rest of the field in. Like, if it rocks up, it will put a space on these. It's not even close. Like, you either side of Cylinder and I am unstoppable by a nose when they were both completely evident. Like, this just has to rock up and be sound, and it wins. It's pretty simple. So they put up 240 yesterday.
Yeah. Could you imagine Aaron 2 legs? Have you seen those dogs where they've got they've got been paralysed and they've got like the wheels on the
Oh,
back
yeah,
legs.
yeah.
So it's,
Chuck the wheels on the back. That's fine.
That's fine. I was like, trot race it. Yeah. Yeah, so they're the two. There's actually lots of good bets in Brisbane, guys. But when Mark when I was looking through, I said, well, I'm betting in race 1, I'm betting in race 2. So I just said to Mark, race 1 and 2. So, but the whole card looks really good.
All right. Well, that's a quick look at an early start. It won't be an early start because, of course, Brisbane is now behind. But Gord may be getting you a bank for the later races in Melbourne and Sydney. Of course, we'll preview the Sydney races tomorrow with Glenn, Gord, and myself. And don't forget that masterclass, which is on Sunday week. Thanks, Gord. Thanks, Aaron, for a look at Melbourne and a brief preview of Eagle Farm. And good luck on the weekend.
Good luck, guys.